The statement that people first means you can't have high expectations, that it means mediocrity, because I've seen that in the business world. I've seen leaders who were so concerned about being nice, so concerned about people being comfortable, so concerned about not having any stress on anybody, that accountability went out the window. And if that's what people first was, then we should reject it. We should run from it. But after decades of working with teams and leading teams and studying high performance cultures, I can tell you that people first is just the opposite of that. If anything, people first culture has higher standards, higher expectations, because that's what the team members want. They want to be challenged. So remember this, when people say people first and they talk about mediocrity, that is a myth that is simply wrong. Now, before we dive into what people first leadership really is and how do you set expectations in a people first culture, we're going to talk about those 4 steps. I want to tell you about this limited offer. If you subscribe to the channel and direct message me, you're going to get 2 things. 1, you're going to qualify for a drawing for a free signed copy of my book, Leading with Significance. And 2, you will get a free invitation to attend a webinar where you'll have the opportunity to ask me the kind of questions that you want to ask about workplace culture, leadership, career growth, whatever you have on your mind. We'll take the time to answer those questions. So back to people first leadership. And I've studied as well as led teams that performed and exceeded expectations over and over and over again, that continued to set a higher mark. And it was always in people first cultures. It wasn't in spite of the high expectations, it was because of them. And it was because people want to succeed and people want to be challenged. When people have a strong sense of belonging, they lean into those high expectations. They help set high expectations. They want to reach their full potential. Now, coming about this knowledge wasn't easy because I made lots of mistakes, especially early in my career, where I was very aggressive, very ambitious, always pushing for the next achievement. I would set goals for our team and for individual team members without any input from them. And then I had the moment where I ran into the wall. I sat down with a young lady who had missed her goals significantly, and of course, I'm only meeting with her after a year, an annual performance review, rather than having those checkups during the year like I should have had. Another lesson that I learned. But this is just one mistake of many. And as I sat across from her and we talked about that, she said, well, Joey, I never had this as a goal. I didn't want to be a manager. I don't want to be on that track. I have 2 kids under the age of 7. They're not in full-time school right now. I want to be there for them. I want a slower schedule right now. And when they get in school, I'll pick it up. And I do want to have a career where I'll achieve everything that I know I can. But nobody had that conversation with me. That was the pin drop moment. That was the cold splash of water that hit me in the face. Because you see, I had set a lot of goals along the way for people without their input. And unfortunately, that happens in so many workplace cultures today with so many leaders. We set goals, we set team goals and company goals without any input from those that have to carry it out. Now, occasionally, they hit those goals, sometimes, but not very often. And frankly, when things got tough, they didn't lean in. I mean, they're just looking to check the box because this is not something that they've really owned personally. In fact, as things get rough, it's not their goal, it actually becomes your goal. That's the danger of setting goals without getting alignment between the team member and the goal that needs to be set. And as I learned from that and began to listen more, I also began to observe and see that in fear-based leadership and in control-based leadership, people didn't have a lot of clarity about what success looked like. They didn't have a lot of clarity about their goals. Think about your personal experience. Do you perform better when you have clear expectations of what success means, or when it's very vague? You just gotta have to find your way. I think it's true for all of us. Once we know a clear path to success and we want to succeed, we know how to move forward. We know how to get there. But too often today, the workplace is full of those got you conversations, just like I was having with that young team member at that annual review. Rather than her receiving good feedback during the year, it actually sets people up for failure. That's what it does. And that's what's going on in so many workplaces. Let's go back to the basics. People want to succeed. They want to be high performers. They want to align their personal career goals with the company goals. They want to know why their work matters. A people-first approach doesn't lower the bar. What a people-first approach does is make sure the bar is real clear and that everybody sees it, everybody understands it, and everybody agrees to it. That's the difference in setting high expectations with people-first leadership. People-first leadership is about having a dialogue about those expectations, making sure they're understood, making sure they align with the team members' goals, that give and take, the understanding of why the goal is important. When we take the time to understand the human side of our team members, when we're really people first, we tap into another level of engagement, intrinsic motivation, discretionary effort. It's about that conversation, asking questions, making sure people understand. And one of the most people first, one of the most caring things you can do is let team members know that you believe in them, that they're capable of it, and that you've got a clear path of how they can get there. People don't run from high expectations, they run from foggy, vague expectations. The conversation itself changes everything because it goes from leadership owning the goal to the team member owning the goal. You know, the most wonderful thing that I've noticed in a people-first culture is it starts to grow organically and get stronger and stronger. The team members themselves raise the level of expectations for each other. Mediocrity sticks out like a sore thumb. The team actually lifts and elevates each other, and those high expectations and everybody wanting to be part of a winning team just drives performance to another level. So whether you're a team member or a leader, let's talk about how you do this in a people-first leadership fashion. Number one is that conversation. You start by asking questions about the team members' goals. What do they see themselves doing? How does that align with what the team needs to have done? What resources do they need? What obstacles are slowing them down? You're going to be surprised what comes out of those conversations. The second important thing to do is share the why. Why is your role important? Why is this team member's role? Why is this goal important? How is it aligned with the team member's personal mission and the company's mission? How are we building something bigger than ourselves with this goal? I always like to think about it like that. The third is the mistake I was sharing with you earlier is you want to revisit on a regular basis. You want to give positive and constructive feedback close to the time you see those behaviors. If you see a team member knocking it out of the park, don't wait till the annual review to tell them. So you want those frequent check-ins. That's part of people-first leadership. And fourth, probably where we start, is don't confuse kindness with having low standards. People want to be held accountable. They want to know where they are on the scoreboard. In fact, the kindest thing you can do is to be clear about what you see in their progress. Now, if you're a team member and you're watching this video, I also want to talk to you directly. All of this affects you. I hope it gave you insights into how you can have a better conversation, but I also encourage you to think really hard when you're setting your personal goals and when you're having those alignment conversations. Be careful not to take the easy way out. Don't set low goals. Set really stretch goals. Your full potential is outside your comfort zone, so set stretch goals, because if you set a stretch goal, even if you get 80% there, you're anything but a failure. Look at the progress you've made. Look at what you've achieved. Whereas you had set a little bitty low goal, you might have achieved very little. You might have spent a whole year making very little progress. So don't be scared of stretch goals. And I also want to point out that, your leader may not always know how to help align your goals. They probably don't have a clear understanding of what you're wanting to achieve, how aggressive you want to be, or maybe how you want to be on a slower track. So make sure you ask for that. Make sure that you ask the questions and put forth the information to have those conversations. Have courage. Your full potential is too important to be quiet. Own it. Speak up. Be seen. Be remembered. Now I want to bring it home very quickly. People first culture is not the enemy of high expectation. In fact, it's the only culture where you can have high performance and high expectations in the long term, consistently. And the reason is because people genuinely feel valued, appreciated. They understand the purpose, the why, and what they're doing. They feel connected to building something bigger than themselves. That's the power of people first culture. A conversation, high expectations created together. It's not soft. It's the hardest and some of the most important work you'll do as a leader and as a team member. And remember our rally cry, #BeBetter.